Hey, what's going on there, guys? Nick here from Absolute MTG, and welcome back to another installment of How to Build a Sealed Deck. I have 6 unopened booster packs of Theros here, which means that it is the Theros edition of How to Build a Sealed Deck. And for you guys that haven't seen the previous episodes of How to Build a Sealed Deck, because I've been doing them for a while, there is a playlist down in the description where you can check out those and you can watch them. Pretty much all of the knowledge and all of the stuff that we talk about, the concepts and everything like that, it's transferable to pretty much any other set that Magic the Gathering has and is going to have. So stuff in the future is, if you go to an event in the future for a set that hasn't been released yet, if you watch these videos, it's still going to give you the same amount of an advantage. If you're pretty new to the format and you don't really know what's going on, it at least gives you that start where you know what you should be doing in a sealed event and whatnot. So the knowledge is transferable, and especially if you go back and you try to do sealed with older formats, not way too older of formats, but older sets, the same thing applies pretty much. So I have the 6 packs here. I also have a stack of basic lands that we're going to use. I have 17 of each, and basically for a 40 card deck for sealed or for draft as well, what you're going to want to have is 17 lands. That's pretty much the proper ratio that you should have. Now, whether you go down to 16 lands or you go up to 18 depends on how you build your deck, how many of a certain converted mana cost of card you have, and if your converted mana cost curve is higher or if it's lower, then you make the decision on whether you want to go up or down on lands and make cuts or add things in. But 17 and 23 is the split that you're going to want to have in a 40 card deck, and your land base should be pretty awesome from that point. But the first thing that we want to do with these packs is to open them up. We want to go and sort the cards by their color, and then we're going to break things down based on bread, which for you guys that have been doing more drafting and more sealed, you'll be familiar with it, or at least some variants of bread. There are a lot of different ones that are floating around, but basically it's bombs, removal, evasion, aggro, and then draw or dregs or dead drops. And then for A, it can be aggro, aggressive, attackers, or there's just a lot of different things that people call A and D in the for bread. But bombs, removal, and evasion, those are the 3 most important things whenever it comes to playing limited and playing in a format. Playing in limited, which is a format where you have to make decisions on the cards that you play based on their power level, based on the synergy that they have with other cards that you're playing in your deck and other factors like that. So we're going to move the lands out of the way here, and we are going to get into cracking these packs and sorting them by color. That's the first thing that I want to do whenever I am starting off a sealed event. So we're going to go over the cards and each individual card once we get to sorting everything out already. So for now, we are just going to sort by color, and we're going to try and remember, or at least pinpoint some of the powerful cards that we get. Polis Crusher is awesome for red-green, and I have done a fair bit of limited play for Theros. The archetypes are pretty fun. For the most part, you can make non-popular archetypes work in Theros, but some of the stronger things are green-red heroic, green-white heroic. Blue-white flyers is definitely a thing, like it is in most sets. Blue-white flyers is just kind of a thing. Green-blue is fairly good as well. Mono-black is good. Mono-green is also good as well. I don't know why I put that there. That goes over here. But we'll see what we end up getting. Some archetypes are stronger than others, but you really just have to base it off of what you get and what you can ultimately go from a certain direction. Erebos' Emissary. We have Thoughtseize. Nice. So we at least have a money rare out of here. Polis Crusher is awesome too, but Thoughtseize is worth a nice bit of money. It's a pretty solid reprint to see as well. So pretty happy about that. So we'll see. I would like to play Polis Crusher. Polis Crusher is awesome. Monstrous is a cool mechanic in this set, and it's a pretty powerful one. And then we have Boon Satyr. So Boon Satyr and Polis Crusher, it already looks like we're maybe going to want to try to go to green, just to be able to play those two. And green-red's definitely not a bad thing. The majority of the time, you don't want to base what you go and play in sealed just off of your rares. Even if you have a lot of on-color rares, you can potentially have a better sealed deck playing good commons and uncommons. Your commons and uncommons could potentially be a whole lot better collectively than a certain color combination that you may have just out of your rares. So a lot of players will get swept away by just looking at the rares and going a particular way because of those rares. We have the Magma Jet, which is cool. Decorated Griffin. We have Perforos. Yeah, red-green's definitely going to be a thing, more than likely. That's really awesome. Perforos is just nuts. Then we have a Mountain and a tip card here. I actually kind of wish that I had worse pulls out of here, like just more average rares. That way it would make for decisions with like deck building and whatnot a little bit harder, and I enjoy a challenge. It's a lot of fun to be able to do these videos because it both tests my deck building for sealed while giving you guys something that you can watch and you can learn the format if you're not as experienced with it or haven't done as much limited play. So we have Hythonia the Cruel. It's a mythic, which is nuts. So 2 mythics so far and a Thoughtseize. That's just great. And last pack. Let's jump to the rare. I want to see what it is. Oh god. The Murder King. Timeret, the Murder King. That's nuts. And we have an Elspeth emblem. Wow. Jeez. Green-red is something. Green-black seems like something as well. Murder King's pretty cool as well, but we'll see. We have Nylea's Disciple, Cursor, Nemesis of Mortals. I know we already pulled one of those as well. Flamespeaker Adept. I definitely want to be playing red here, though. That's pretty certain. The Crusader. We have a few black cards. Stymied Hopes, Breaching Hippocamp, Arceus Forms, Spearpoint Oriad, Ordeal of Erebos, and we have a Swamp. Alright, so now that we have that out of the way, what we want to do is we want to take a look at the cards in each color, and we want to just kind of pick out the things that are really good. So I really like the Burnished Heart. It's a cool card. It's a 2/2 for 3, and for 3 mana we sack it and search our library for up to 2 basic land cards and put them onto the battlefield tapped. So it can let us ramp, and it's definitely good with things like Nemesis of Mortals, where it's going to get cheaper with the more creatures we have in our grave. It ramps us, it lets us play into like green, red, monstrous and stuff like that, which is cool. What else? I mean, the Burnished Hearts are pretty much the biggest things that stand out. Fleet Feather Sandals are pretty good as well. We have the 3 Guardians, which aren't really as amazing. I definitely like the Burnished Heart of colorless cards. Spearpoint Oriad's pretty nice. Crowing Crusader, if we can get heroic and we can get enough heroic things going off. Flamespeaker Adept's really awesome as well. I don't know if I just pulled one of them. Yeah, I only just pulled one of them, but if we can get if we can chain together multiple scry triggers, then it gets to be pretty big pretty quick. We do have Titan Strength, which is definitely playable. Ill-Tempered Cyclops playing into Monstrous. Perforos, Magma Jet for removal / burn. Titan Strength again, Minotaur Skullcleaver, another Spearpoint Oriad, Crusader, Rage of Perforos because removal was just really nice. Demolish, Deathbellow Raider, Priest of Eros, and Messenger Speed. So the things that stand out of here would be things like Rage of Perforos. Removal is the second most important thing as far as limited goes. Bombs, of course, whenever we look at bread, bombs are going to be pretty much the most important thing. You want to have big things that just end the game real quick or immediately. But removal is definitely the second most important thing, and Rage of Purphoros is pretty awesome removal. So, no, we had a, there we go, here's the other Oreod. So we have the Rage of Purphoros, the 2 Oreods, we have 2 Crusader. I'm not entirely sure if we can get Heroic off though, but we'll see. Skull Cleaver is awesome, it's a 2/2 for 3, and it gets +2/+0, and whenever it enters the battlefield and it has haste. So essentially the turn you played, it's a 4/2 for 3. The 2 Titan Strength are awesome, +3/+1, and Scry 1. Magma Jet's awesome. Purphoros, definitely the best thing out of red here. Ill-Tempered Cyclops is good. Flame Speaker Adept may just even be good, even though we only have like a limited amount of things that are going to help us scry. This Flame Speaker Adept can definitely still be good. So we have that in red. Out of blue, the Hippocamp is nice. Arceus Form, Dissolve. The Giant, I like the Giant as well. 4/5 for 6. It's expensive, but it has hexproof, and I really love hexproof creatures in limited formats. Sea God's Revenge for 6 mana. Sealed is generally a little bit slower than limited, so you can get away with playing like 6 mana sorceries that bounce 3 creatures to their owner's hand. Nimbus Naiad, so the nymph for flying, +2/+2 flying if we bestow it. We have another giant. We have Voyage's End. Omen Speaker is definitely really good. Lost in a Labyrinth. Prescient Chimera is nice. Another Lost in a Labyrinth. Thassa's Bounty, not too particular about it. And Monic Wall. Blue isn't as amazing. There are definitely some cool cards in blue, but it's a little bit more lacking. Yeah, blue's a little bit more lacking, but I think our seal pool was pretty much a little bit more decided for us with cards like Purphoros, things like Polis Crusher, and Boon Satyr. Those are all fantastic cards. So out of black, we do have some removal. We have Lash of the Whip. Do we have any other things? We have Cure. Cure is somewhat, it's pseudo removal. It gets rid of creatures with 2 toughness or less, and it lets us gain 2 life, but it's just deal 2 damage to target creature. We have Read the Bones, which is good for draw. However, you want to break down A and D out of bread. Those are pretty much the lowest things on the totem pole, so you just want to kind of consider like defensive creatures that are like things that just could potentially have like a big butt, like a big toughness. Those aren't necessarily bad as for filling slots in your deck whenever you're trying to just like find 1 card or 2 cards that need to be in there because you can't play anything else. Like, that's fine. Draw spells are definitely somewhat important as well. Ultimately, like, for D, it's just going to be cards that really aren't as amazing in the initial cut for cards that you want to be playing. But Lash of the Whip, Cure, Read the Bones stand out here. Ordeal is good as well. All of the Ordeal cards are good. Hythonia, of course, is really nice for 6 mana, 4/6 Death Touch, and monstrous to destroy all Norngorgon creatures whenever we make it monstrous. Boon lets us regenerate a creature at the cost of 2 life, essentially, but it gives it +2/+0. Also, well, of course, Thoughtseize is good, and Erebos' Emissary is really good. And Erebos' Emissary is probably like one of my more favorite things, aside from like Hythonia and Thoughtseize out of this pool. Erebos' Emissary allowing you to discard a creature card and give it +2/+2 until the end of the turn, and if it's an aura, it gives the enchanted creature +2/+2 instead, but the enchanted creature off of Bestow is just going to get +3/+3 as a norm, which is just fantastic. But again, black doesn't have as many just like solid things overall. The thing that I'm more interested in here is definitely green. So out of green, we have Asp, which Asp is great. It's a 4/5 for 5 with Reach and Monstrous, 4 for 7 mana. We have the Nemesis of Mortals, which is a 5/5 for 6, and it costs 1 less for each creature card in our graveyard, which already plays into Burnished Heart. And we have 2 of those, which is great. We do have Centaur Battlemaster, which the Battlemaster is going to get bigger for every heroic trigger that we have. Every time we cast a spell that targets him, we get to put 3+1/+1 counters on the Battlemaster, which is great because out of red, we have the Oreads, which will allow us to bestow. Bestow is going to target, so that's pretty great. We also have Titan Strength, which is going to allow us to give the Battlemaster +3/+1, and then another +3/+3 counters, which is just great. That's pretty much it. I guess we could even play like Messenger's Spee as well if we really had to find another card to play. But I'm definitely liking the way that red-green is looking, especially like Burnished Heart, Nemesis Immortals to like ramp it out pretty quick. Nylea's Disciple can work towards our advantage as well. It's not really as important for us to gain a huge amount of life off of it. 3/3 for 4, we gain life equal to our devotion to green. It's just a pretty solid creature. It's a 3/3 for 4, which is pretty fair. The Nessian Cursor as well. It's a 3/3 for 3 creature. Even though it's a plain creature, it's still good. 3/3 for 3 creatures are just... they're just really good on turn 3. There's not much this like you can't really go deep. You can't go below the surface on trying to say why Nessian Cursor is good. It's just a 3/3 for 3. You play it on turn 3 and it's just value. So it's definitely something that you want to be playing. Like, of course, if we had like a 4/4 for 3 that had no drawback to it, we would like to play that as well. But cards that are fair for their power and toughness as compared to converted mana cost is definitely great. Siege Scorpion is 1/1 for 1 with Death Touch. It's not really the most amazing thing, but it's definitely pretty good as well. We have our Voyaging Satyrs, which can ramp for us as well. So untap target land. If we tap the Satyr, it's not necessarily bad. And then we have Boon Satyr, which is like one of the best things out of this green pool. Boon Satyr is really good. Just being able to bestow for 5, give it the enchanted creature +4/+2, and then with the whole bestow, how bestow works, like if the creature that's enchanted by the bestow creature, if that creature dies, then the bestow enchantment creature becomes just a creature on the battlefield. If somebody tries to get rid of your creature while you're trying to enchant and that trigger is on the stack, then you still get your bestow creature on the battlefield as a regular creature. It's an awesome way that bestow works, and it's an awesome mechanic, and I definitely really like it a whole lot. So out of green, these are probably the things that I want to be playing. But let's take a look at white. So we have Evangel of Heliod, we have Battle-Wise Valor, which could play into Heroic, and green-white, red-white Heroic is pretty great. There's also red-green Heroic, which I don't think... Red-green Heroic is good, but I don't like it as much as I like... green-white Heroic, I would have to say. We do have another Battle-Wise Valor. We have the Citizen Battle Priest, which plays into Heroic. And we have a third Battle-Wise Valor, of course. And we have Band Elder. So if we had more of a reason to go into white, if things weren't telling us to go red-green as it was, white would definitely be a pretty cool choice to go about because of the Battle-Wise Valor. Some players would try to be really greedy, and because of the Burnished Heart, try to go into 3 colors to play Naya, which is red, green, and white, just to be able to play things like Battle-Wise Valor and get value off of that. But I'm not as greedy when it comes to playing... like limited like that. In certain cases I am, but I think in this case we're probably safe just playing, we're probably safe and appropriate just playing 2 colors, just playing red-green. But we do have the 3 Battle-Wise Valor, Citizen Battle Priest, Evangel. If we were deeper in white, we would definitely be good. We have the Band Elder, which is good. We have Vanquish the Foul, destroying a target creature with power 4 or greater, and then we get to scry 1. And I'd have to say that's pretty much it in terms of like good cards. Like the Leonin Snarecaster isn't bad as well. 2/1 for 2, enters the battlefield, and we can tap target creature. It's good it's probably better late game than it is early game, being able to not allow your opponent to have as many blockers for things when you're trying to swing alpha, but it's probably a little bit more filler than anything in our decks when we're trying to find slots that we need to fill. And for our multicolored cards, we have our Timeret, the Murder King, we have Sentry of the Underworld, Battle-Wise Hoplite, we have Chronicler of Heroes, and Polis Crusher. So if we did want to go for that third color, Chronicler actually wouldn't be bad, because of like any monsters that we have. So whenever it enters the battlefield, draw a card if you control a creature with a +1/+1 counter on it. So it's not awful. It's a 3/3 for 3. If you draw it late, you pretty much get the cantrip, but not as impressed with it, not going to be greedy with this limited pool. So Polis Crusher is going to get played, and we're going to be playing green-red, more than likely. So let's see how we would actually go about building this. So we'll get all the remaining colors out of the way, and our tip cards and tokens and whatnot. We'll put that up to the side there, and we'll get cracking with deck building this. So of course we are going to need basic lands. So we have our forests, we have our mountains. Put those up there. So things that I mentioned before that I wanted to play would be like the Burnished Hearts, because they let us get into monsters very, very quick. And the fact that the Burnished Heart doesn't have, it's not a tap ability, it's just that we pay the 3 and sack it, makes it a little bit better than, well, it makes it a bit better because we can use it like on the turn that we play it, potentially. If we have like 6 mana open and want to go and search, or like use it as a blocker and then use it to search. It's definitely really good, assuming that they don't have Trample, because Trample still gets through that. But if your opponent doesn't have Trample, you can block with the Heart, and you can sack it before damage is dealt, and search your library, and that creature is like not going to do any damage because you already declared that blocker. So definitely something to remember. But if they have Trample, then they can just assign all of that damage to you directly, which is kind of a bummer. But it just ends up being how you decide blockers and whatnot. So Polis Crusher is going to get played. Boon Satyr is going to get played. The 2 Nemesis Immortals, because they have insane synergy with the Heart. Nessian Asp, I want to play Centaur Battlemaster. We'll see how that's going to end up. We also have Nylea's Disciple. We have the Arnesian Cursor, and I don't know if we're going to play the Scorpion or the Voyaging Satyrs, but we'll see what we end up having by like the end of this. So we have Perforos, which we're definitely going to be playing. Perforos, 6/5 for 4 creature. We're not really even as worried about him being a creature every single time, all the time, every time we draw him or play him. He is just amazing because every time another creature enters the battlefield under our control, he's going to deal 2 damage to each opponent, and for 3 mana, creatures we control get +1/+0 until the end of the turn. If we have like 6 mana or 9 mana open, if it's like really late game, we can pump and use that 3 mana ability as many times as we're able to, and we can just give a buff across the entire board. The Spear Point Oreads are nice. It's going to give us another target for Centaur Battlemaster to be able to trigger off his Heroic, but overall it makes any of our creatures bigger. Playing it on turn 3 is probably alright. It's not the most optimal thing that we can do with it, but putting it on a creature for 6 mana, giving it +2/+2 and first strike makes it just huge. Rage of Perforos for removal. We have our Minotaur Skullcleaver as just a pretty plain like 4/2 creature on turn 3 that's going to swing in. We're going to have our 2 Titan Strengths to buff up the creatures that we do have. We have Magma Jet, Ill-Tempered Cyclops, and I probably want to play Flamespeaker Adept here just to start things off. But what we're going to be aiming for here is going to be to have 23 cards for our deck, and then the 17 lands that are going to complement that. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So we have 20. So we can add 3 more cards in that are going to fill up those remaining slots. so what 3 cards are ultimately going to make the cut is the question. And things that I probably am not as excited for would be like the Crusader. I'm not really as excited about it. I like Messenger's speed. It's alright. It enchants a creature, gives it trample and haste. For like some of the bigger creatures, if they don't have trample, it can get some more damage in there. So Messenger's speed probably wouldn't be bad. We can probably just go ahead and play the Scorpion. It's a blocker that is going to have Death Touch. It can block big things that our opponents have, and it can force them to attack differently or attack with only so many creatures because they don't want certain ones to die. So it manipulates the way that the game's ultimately going to be played, which is definitely good. But for the last slot in here, Defend the Hearth. Probably, it's a fog effect. It probably won't be played main board. If we play against something that's just blowout aggressive, we can side it in, like going into game 2, game 3. Voyaging Satyr, I don't know if that's necessarily like the most necessary thing here. But then again, like the Crow and Crusaders, I'm not as impressed with them just because we only have a limited amount of ways to use Heroic, and I'd rather like save it for Battlemaster to make Battlemaster bigger than just making 1/1s. And having that 1/1 for 1 red on turn 1, which you might not even get on turn 1. I might be like a late game that you draw him. So I'd probably rather want like the Voyaging Satyr just to make our ramping a little bit better. So that was that all of the stuff that we needed? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. So yeah, that's 23. Anything else out of the uncommons or the colorless cards? We have Opaline Unicorn, but Burnished Heart is definitely a whole lot better. You do get to keep the Opaline Unicorn, but it's kind of different the way that the 2 cards interact. I'd rather be searching my library for lands because it gets them out of my deck. That means I'm going to be drawing. I'm going to have a lesser probability of drawing lands in future turns because there's less lands in my deck, which heightens the probability of drawing instants, sorceries, creatures, and stuff like that. So that's the reason why I would want to run the Heart over like Opaline Unicorn. And then Fleet Feather's Sandals, it's not bad. Equipped creature has flying and haste. Like, that's really good, but I'm not entirely too sure of it. We might play that over Messenger Speed. That actually seems probably like a more appropriate thing to go for. The 2 mana, the difference between 1 mana and 2 mana probably isn't as huge. Of course, Fleet Feather Sandals does not trigger Heroic because Heroic is only spells, and once this card is already on the battlefield, it's no longer a spell, it's a permanent. That's the only difference between Messenger Speed and the Sandals. However, just being able to equip it onto something, give it flying, give it haste, it's evasion, it's important, so that's probably a fair thing to try to assume that card would probably be more playable than Messenger Speed, and I think for the most part it is. So now that we have our 23 that we're going to be using, the next thing to do is to figure out how we want to go and do the land base. So, of course, we know we're going to be using 17 lands here, but the question is, how are we going to formulate that 17 that we're going to have? So, the thing that I like to do is I like to separate all of the cards that we have based on their color, and then we're going to try and figure out what the appropriate ratio should be for a certain color to another color, like a certain amount of lands, like forests to mountains. How many are we going to have? And the basic way that I like to formulate that is to go and look at the ratio of red mana symbols to green mana symbols, and then we can make at least a pretty fair mathematical guess as to what the appropriate or near appropriate count should be. Now, whenever it comes to actually figuring out that number that we want to have for our split, a cool app that I like to use, which is on the Apple Marketplace, on the App Store, is called Manafix, and I've featured this in previous episodes of how to build a sealed deck. Basically, with this app, you are going to enter in the amount of lands that you want to have in your deck. So for this case, we want to have 17. And what we're going to do is we are going to count up the mana symbols that we have for the cards that we have based on color, and we're going to enter it in. So we have, for green, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So we have 15 symbols there. So for green, we are going to scroll this up to 15. And for red, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So we are going to do 11 here. And if you don't have this app, I'm not entirely sure if you're able to get it like on the Android marketplace on like Google Play or whatnot. But if you're not able to get your hands like on this app or anything like that, it's pretty simple math to figure things out. You're going to find the total number of mana symbols that you have, and then you're going to do division based on the mana symbols that you're looking for. Like if green, you have like the total number of mana symbols, and then you're going to be finding the percent with green, and you're going to find the percent with red, and that's going to translate over to the percent of like forests to mountains and back and forth like that. And it's going to vary based on what colors you're playing and the mana symbols that you have and the total mana symbols, of course. But the actual math to figure it out is not hard, but it's definitely a lot easier whenever you have an app that just makes things a whole lot more quick to figure things out. So having our 7 and 10 split here, that sounds about right. That's pretty much what we want to have. Our red cards aren't really necessarily like that early for us. Like we're not going to be like taxed for not having a red source before like turn 2 or something like that. So it's probably fine to just go with that 7 and 10 split as suggested. And it's the same exact math that like Magic the Gathering Online uses for calculating land base. So we have 3, 6, 9, 10. And then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So there is our 17 card land base. Now that we have that, let's shuffle everything up and test this deck out. So I did do some shuffling off camera to get everything randomized, and I tried to be pretty careful with the cards that are in here because I do have Perforos and I don't have sleeves on this deck. So what I'm going to do is just a few final little card movements here just to get things randomized and just to show you guys that the deck's not stacked or something like that, and I'm not showing you some like phony playtest hands or something like that. So we'll just do a small little shuffle and we should be good. So we'll draw our 7. Ideally we want to see at least one red. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And we have 2 red and 1 green. That's actually really awesome. This is a really awesome way to start the game out. So we have forest, mountain, and mountain. So what we're going to do is we can start off with either forest or mountain. It really doesn't matter too much for us. We draw and we have Nemesis Immortals. Turn 2, we are going to go and play our Fleet Feather Sandals. And we're going to pass the turn to our opponent. We're going to draw, and we have Nessian Cursor. So the choice that we have now is between the Flamespeaker Adept and the Nessian Cursor, and I definitely want to get the Flamespeaker Adept out there sooner because we could potentially use our Titan Strength to go give it another +2/+0 on top of the +3/+1 because of the scry that we're going to get. So the Flamespeaker Adept definitely gets a bonus over like the Cursor, which is just a 3/3 that we can pump but doesn't get any like super buffs or anything like that. So we'll draw again, and we have another forest, which is nice. So what we can do is we can either go and play Polish Crusher, or we can play Titan Strength and Nessian Cursor, but it really just depends on how things would be going about for us from here. So what we can do is we can probably... Well, we actually have a few options. We can play Fleet Feather Sandals, we can put it on Adept, and we can have it have Flying Haste, and then we can use Titan Strength as well, so that will hit for 7. but that's probably not going to be lethal this early. So what we can do is we can play like Polis Crusher, and then we can pass the turn. Nothing really is going to happen. We'll draw. We have another Nemesis, which is 6 mana. We're a little bit far from it right now. If we can just get 2 more land drops or have one of our creatures die or something like that, it would be pretty cool. It would be pretty beneficial for us. So we have the sandals. We can equip those. We can swing with like Polis Crusher and just deal damage with them. So that's probably like the most fair thing that we can do here, swinging for 4, or we don't even have to do that. We can just swing in based on what our opponent has on the field. If our opponent tries to attack with like a 3/3 creature or something like that to get damage through, we can go and use Titan Strength, but that's not necessarily something we need to do. But going on from there, what else could we do? We can now play our cursor because we're missing some land drops here. We can play the cursor. We can swing with both. From this point, if our opponent, depending on how our opponent does things, like if they don't block Polis Crusher, we can use Titan Strength. Our Flamespeaker Adept gets a buff off of the Scry trigger. Polis Crusher gets a little bit bigger, and we get to Scry. We see the top card of our library, which is a forest, which is probably fine. We want to hit another land drop. That's going to be optimal for us, and we pass it back. We draw that card during our next turn, and then we're going to be playing our Asp, which is a nice big fat reach creature. We can like swing in with Polis Crusher because of that evasion, which is pretty perfect. And then from there, let's see, we have Rage of Purpose, which is just nuts. That's a great top deck to have. We can use that to get rid of one of our opponent's creatures. And let's see a few other plays. We have the Skull Cleaver, we have Burnished Heart, Scorpion, and Battlemaster. Battlemaster is probably a little bit later than we would have liked to have seen it, but at this point we probably should have gotten a pretty solid game win from here. The things that we drew are pretty just perfect for when we drew them and whatnot. So we'll shuffle things up real quick here and just do another quick little test hand, and then we can wrap this video up. So let's see. I'm trying to be ever so careful with the cards because we do have that Perforos in there. We also do have Polis Crusher as well, but Polis Crusher isn't worth as much as Perforos. We'll see. So we have 3, 6, 7. Alright, so let's see. We have Forest, Forest, Mountain, Mountain. Perfect. So what we can start off with is a Mountain. Just, it really doesn't matter turn 1 what we play. But we start off with a Mountain. We go and we play another Mountain. And we'll pass. We play our Forest. We play Flamespeaker Adept. Or we can go for the Oread, depending on what our opponent has. But, I mean, Flamespeaker Adept is just 1 toughness bigger for the same amount of mana. Then we have another Forest for our land drop, and then we can play Polis Crusher, and Polis Crusher is going to be pretty huge. We can either swing or not swing. From there, we're going to draw. We have another Mountain, so we're definitely on course to hit monsters for Polis Crusher, hit monsters for Ill-Tempered Cyclops. And we are actually pretty on spot for being able to use Oread for First Strike, which is sweet. So we can play the Cyclops, preferably main phase 2. We can swing in with our creatures, main phase 2, play him, just because we don't want to reveal or give away any information of like what we do or don't have, or what we potentially could or couldn't have in our hand. And then we had another land drop. So from here, we'll probably just go play the 4, so we have 3 of each. And we can hit monsters on either one of these. We can also go and we can bestow as well, which is pretty fair to be able to do. But ultimately, it's another pretty solid board state that we have. Then we draw another forest that's subpar. Centaur Battlemaster, if we didn't use the Oread for bestow, if we like went monstrous the following turn, Then we play Battlemaster, and we could use the Oriod on Battlemaster to trigger off Heroic and give it +2/+2 for a strike on top of the 3+1/+1s. We have a Titan Strength, which triggers off of Adept. If we use it on Battlemaster, it makes it really big and fat. Burnished Heart, and then Perforos. So, some pretty sweet playtesting here. The deck actually looks pretty fun, and if this wasn't a mock draft or a mock sealed building type of video, whole kind of deal, I would actually be pretty happy with playing this in an actual event, like either online or just in real paper Magic, playing at like a shop or something like that. But I definitely really enjoy the format. I think it's a really fun format and a really fun set for Limited, and I hope you guys feel the same way. And I hope that if you have any experiences with playing Sealed, that you share them down in the comments below. But that is pretty much all that I have for you guys for this installment of how to build a Sealed deck for Theros. So we did pull the Pulse Crusher, Boon Satyr, we had a foil Battlemaster, we of course have Perforos that is hiding from me, and then we also have our Thoughtseize, we have Hythonia, and we're missing one card. What's the one card that we're missing? The Murder King. There we go. So those are the rares that we pulled out of our packs. So thank you guys for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please be sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more Magic the Gathering content, videos, and all that cool and fun stuff. And until next time, guys, peace out.